Have you ever been staring at a stock's financial statements and just felt completely overwhelmed? Well, there's this Chrome extension called Finmagine that's an absolute game changer. Think of it like having a pro analyst right there with you, turning all those raw numbers on stockanalysis.com into insights you can actually use. Let's do a deep dive and see how it works.
This is the big question, isn't it? For any of us who invest, we're faced with just pages and pages of tables and numbers. The real trick is figuring out how to cut through all that noise. How do you actually find the story that the data is trying to tell you? Well, that's exactly what this tool is built to do.
So, here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this the way a professional analyst would, starting from that high-level overview and drilling all the way down to the final verdict. We'll kick things off by telling the story with charts, then we'll run a full 100-point health check. After that, we'll break down what's driving the performance, see how that stacks up against the market price, and finally, we'll answer that million-dollar question. Is this stock actually a good deal? Let's get right into it.
All right, first up is the Charts tab. Before we dive into any of the complicated ratios, we've got to see the big picture. This is where we visualize all that raw data to spot the most important trends in, 2 seconds.
Honestly, the process couldn't be simpler. You're on a stock's financial page, right? Buried in all those tables. You just click the Finmagine button, check a couple of boxes, say revenue and net income, and boom! Instantly, those boring static numbers just come to life as these super clear, interactive charts. No more copying and pasting into spreadsheets.
And that's really the magic of this first step. It's all about turning those raw, hard-to-read numbers into a visual story that you can understand right away. Is revenue going up? Are the margins getting bigger or smaller? You can see it all in a heartbeat without ever having to open Excel.
Okay, so visualizing the data is a great start. But now we get to the real heart of the tool, the Quick Analysis tab. This is where the extension stops just showing you the data and actually starts giving you a diagnosis of the company's financial health.
And at the core of this whole thing is the health score. It's a really simple but powerful rating from 0 to 100. This one single number basically summarizes the entire fundamental analysis, giving you an immediate gut check on the company's strengths and weaknesses.
So take a look at this dashboard for Alphabet. Your eyes immediately go to that perfect 100 health score on the left, right? But the real power is how fast you can see why it got that score. You've got the strengths listed right below it, key metrics in the middle, and then you can see that consistent sales and profit growth on the right. It's the whole story, all in one view.
Now, this is absolutely crucial. How does it get that score? This is not some one-size-fits-all system. The extension is actually smart enough to figure out a company's specific industry. We're talking 19 different profiles, and it applies the right logic. It knows that for a bank, price to book is a huge deal. But for a tech company, you're probably way more focused on growth and margins.
And for US stocks, it gets even better. It adds these 3 extra panels that answer some really important questions. The Financial Scores panel basically asks, is this company secretly at risk of going bankrupt? The Analyst Outlook tells you, what does Wall Street think? And the Ownership panel answers, are the big institutions and the insiders buying or selling this thing?
Okay, so we've got the big picture, and we have a health score. The next logical question is, why? Why is that score high? Or maybe why is it low? That's exactly what the Calculated Ratios tab is for. It lets us deconstruct the company's performance by really digging into its core financial ratios.
The star of the show on this tab is definitely the DuPont analysis. It's this classic framework that takes one of the most important metrics, return on equity, and it breaks it down into the 3 things that actually drive it. This is how you find the true source of a company's returns.
And this visual just lays it out perfectly. You can see the formula right there. Net profit margin times asset turnover times equity multiplier equals ROE. So this immediately answers that critical question, is this company's high return coming from awesome profits, or from using its assets really efficiently, or is it just taking on a whole lot of risky debt?
And it's not just DuPont. This tab is packed with all the other crucial ratios you'd want to see for things like profitability and leverage. But here's the best part. You don't have to be some kind of numbers wizard to get it. A simple color code, green for excellent, red for poor, lets you see a company's entire financial DNA at a glance.
All right, so up to this point, we've only been focused on the company itself, its internal health, its performance. Now we're going to shift our focus to the market. The Price Analysis tab is all about understanding how the market is seeing and, more importantly, pricing this company.
The whole point of this tab is to answer one question. Is the stock's price actually justified by its fundamental growth?
This slide puts it perfectly, side by side. It compares the stock's price's growth rate against the growth rate of its profits. This helps you spot those times when the market hype might be getting a little bit ahead of the business reality.
For U.S. stocks, you also get this awesome technical snapshot of the stock's momentum. It'll measure volatility with beta, it'll tell you if the stock is getting too hot or too cold with the RSI, and it even automatically flags key signals, like a bullish golden cross, which happens when that short-term momentum starts to overtake the long-term trend.
And that brings us to the final judgment call, the bottom line for any investment analysis, right? Is the stock fairly valued? The Valuation tab gives you this multifaceted verdict to help you answer that exact question.
Now, this quote right here, this is the entire philosophy that drives this tab. You just can't value a bank the same way you value a software company. The extension gets that, and it applies a really intelligent sector-specific approach.
What's so smart about this is that it computes a weighted verdict. It knows that for a tech company, the PE ratio is probably what matters most. But for a bank, price to book is king. And for those cyclical sectors like basic materials, it knows to treat the PE ratio as pretty unreliable.
So it looks at all the standard valuation metrics, but it adds this crucial layer of context by comparing the current number to its own 5-year history. That tells you if the stock is cheap or expensive for itself. And for U.S. stocks, it also pulls in the forward PE, which gives you a sneak peek into what the valuation looks like based on next year's expected earnings.
So we've walked through all 5 tabs. To wrap things up, let's just quickly summarize what really makes this tool different. What is the Finmagine edge?
It really comes down to 4 key things. First, it is completely private. All the analysis happens right there on your computer. Your stock picks are never tracked. Second, it's incredibly fast because it pulls data from multiple pages at once without ever slowing you down. And finally, it's smart. That sector-aware intelligence means you are always getting an analysis that's actually relevant to the company you're looking at.
So in the end, this tool walks you through that entire analysis workflow, from the visual storytelling all the way to a final valuation verdict, all in one place. It's really built to bridge that massive gap between just having data and actually having insight. So I guess the only question left is, are you ready to upgrade your analysis?